Greetings, YouTubers. This is a response to the poorly contrived How the U.S. Mortgage Industry Collapsed video. We've responded to this video before. We had a two-part response destroying his contention that it was high oil crude prices and high food prices that devastated the economy. They certainly weren't good, but it's not as bad as he stated it, and his reasoning behind it was flawed, but I'll reference those videos as well. Now we're going to attack why did the mortgage industry collapse, and I assume he avoided Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac because he knew Democrats would get ensnared in it, and then also it could be because he does poor research. One of the chief reasons the housing market crashed and sent ripples, this will be a two-part response by the way, and sent ripples throughout the economy was because of government-sponsored enterprises such as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Liberals have several methods to combat this, and we'll go over some of those shortly. Again, I'll have the relevant link on the right side where I go over the entire, all of it en masse. It's 21 pages, far more than I can get on here. Jimmy Carter's 1977 Community Reinvestment Act. Senator William Proxmire, a Democrat from Wisconsin, introduced a Community Reinvestment Senate bill. Opponents argued the bill would allocate credit without regard for merits of loan applications, thereby threatening depository institutions. Even back then they were warning of it. Proponents countered that it was only to ensure that lenders did not ignore good borrowing prospects in their communities. The bill's sponsor stressed it would neither force high-risk lending nor substitute the views of regulators for those of banks. President Carter, pressed by grassroots organizations, though opposed by the banking industry, signed into law the Community Reinvestment Act. In the years following, CRA has undergone several revisions to boost community development laws. The legislation was designed to stem bank redlining, the practice of drawing a red line around low-income communities and denying lending in these areas. The original intent of CRA was to encourage banks to foster home ownership opportunities in these underserved communities in which the lending institutions were chartered. According to Section 801 of Title 8, regulated financial institutions are required by law to demonstrate that their deposit facilities serve the convenience and needs, i.e. credit and deposit services, of the communities in which they are chartered to do business. Accordingly, regulated financial institutions have continuing and affirmative obligation to meet these needs. Moreover, the title required each appropriate federal financial supervisory agency to use its authority when examining financial institutions to encourage such institutions. Substitute affordable retirement for all these class warfare arguments libtards use for affordable housing and you'll see what I mean. Where has the unconstitutional program where I pay for your retirement got us? It's trillions in debt and the direct bailouts of Fannie and Freddie, which cost us close to $1 trillion, and all those indirect bailouts, i.e. Countrywide Financial and IndyMac and AIG, which were heavily invested in mortgage-backed securities, will cost us trillions more. As you can see, even back then, people realized this would morph into a corporate and governmental affordable housing slush fund. What these GSDs do is they buy up a lot of these subprime Alt-A, stated income, stated assets, and no money down teaser rate mortgages and sell them back as mortgage-backed securities. Consider this. Previously undisclosed internal documents that are now in Mr. Henry Nostrilitis Waxman's possession that we've seen, this is the Wall Street Journal, tell a different story. Memos and emails at the highest levels of Fannie and Freddie management in 2004 and 2005 paint a picture of two companies that saw their market share eroded by such projects as adjustable rate mortgages and interest-only mortgages. There's some subprime lending for you. The two companies were prepared to walk ever further out on the risk curve to maintain their market position. As a result, by the middle of 2008, the two companies were responsible for some $1.6 trillion worth of subprime credit of one form or another. The answer to Nostrilitis Waxman's question about their role in the crisis, in other words, is that they were central players, if not the central players, in the creation of the housing boom and subsequent credit bust. Mr. Nostrilitis Waxman released some of these documents Tuesday, but kept others under wraps. This was a couple months ago, though. In early 2004, Freddie's executive team was engaged in a heated debate over whether to start acquiring stated income, stated assets, mortgages. And in April of that year, David Andrew Konis, the head of risk management, wrote to his colleagues. He said this is not an affordable product as I understand it, but a product necessary to recapture market share. In 1990, we called this product, or 1990, we called this product dangerous and eliminated it from the marketplace. Freddie Mac went ahead and purchased them anyway. One Fannie Mae document from 2005 notes, although we invest almost exclusively in AAA rated securities, there is a concern that the rating agencies may not be properly assessing the risk in these securities. But they bought them anyway, both to maintain their market share and to show people like Democrat Barney Frank that they were promoting affordable housing. Again, how's affordable retirement done? By April 2008, according to a document prepared for then Fannie Mae CEO Daniel Mudd and marked confidential, highly restricted, Fannie's $312 billion in Alt-A mortgages represented, you'll have to excuse my phone ringing, represented 12% of single-family credit exposure. This book of business, the document notes, was originated to maintain relevance in market with customers. Main originators were Countrywide, ding, Lehman Brothers, IndyMac, Washington Mutual, and AmTrust. The first four need no introduction. Regulators ordered the Ohio-based AmTrust to stop lending 2 weeks ago. Remember that one of Fannie's roles was supposed to be buy up mortgage-backed securities in the secondary market and keep that market quote-unquote liquid. This was, they always argued, the rationale for their $1 trillion plus mortgage-backed securities portfolios. By becoming players of private label, subprime, and Alt-A backed mortgage-backed securities, they did just that. They liquefied and helped legitimize products that they now claim others irresponsibly sold. We know Fannie and Freddie invested and tangled others up in their shaky investments, but how did they do it? Again, this is mostly review, but every government subsidized dime that Fannie and Freddie spent buying up subprime securities is another dime private banks had to make to they could make these subprime loans with them. Also, as another aside, I should mention Clinton's HUD pushed banks to make these types of loans, or they wouldn't get a good Community Reinvestment Act rating, and of course then they could be strong-armed. They'd either be demonized in the media and by these activist groups, or they're gonna bend to the will of Clinton's HUD. Countrywide Financial was among the biggest players in the subprime market. It has lost, get ready for this, $2.5 billion in just the past year and has another $6 billion in non-performing assets on its books. Fannie Mae was Countrywide's biggest customer. Chris Dodd was a customer too. This means that through Fannie and Freddie, you, the taxpayer, helped subsidize Countrywide's subprime loan underwriting. This all occurred because some government bureaucrats thought some people with no assets and a poor credit rating were getting the shaft in their quest for a home. Acorn and other special interest groups played a role. Consider this from an Acorn document in 1999. The Acorn Housing Corporation pushed lenders to include less traditional income sources such as food stamps, unemployment, part-time jobs, non-court-ordered child support, and foster care payments in their income measurements to determine if a borrower is worthy of a loan. Ridiculous. That's not all. Here's some dubious actions perpetrated by the Boston-based Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, and I'll pick that up in part 2. We'll finish that with part 2. I'll pick up where I left off there.